Welcome to the third of our Lent courses on Peter, an inspiration to us all, but also a huge failure. We're going to look today about how Peter misunderstood about power. All societies have hierarchies. They give more power to some than to others. It could be justified by age and education. It might be because of gender, of race, all kinds of things that separate one person from another. Jesus showed that there is a better way, and Peter objected. Now, Christians throughout the centuries have justified hierarchy in society. If you take the lyrics of the film, All Things Bright and Beautiful, written by Mrs. Alexander, there was a verse in that says, "The rich man in his castle, the poor man at his gate. God made them high and lowly and ordered their estate." Now, Mrs. Alexander was an Anglo-Irish woman, a community that had great wealth and power from the agricultural wealth of the rich grass of Ireland. At the time of the Great Famine, the height and the worst year of the Great Famine was 1848. All Things Bright and Beautiful was written in 1848. The people died in thousands, and it was because of social inequality. Now, Mrs. Alexander was someone who went out and helped the poor. She responded in compassion to gather together food for the hungry, but she also supported the political and social structure that meant that Irish people starved. She said it was God's plan. Now, Christians have justified social division through apartheid and slavery. The Society for the Propagation of the Gospel raised funds to build churches for white colonialists in America through the running of a cruel slave plantation in Barbados. It was God's will. Power is the quality of God that human beings crave, whether it's from Vladimir Putin through to the rulers of North Korea or wherever it is in the world. Jesus challenges that, and he's the one with power, and he gives it away. Just think back to the Last Supper. It was the Passover festival, and Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. And having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. His own in the world are all of us, all human beings. The evening meal was in progress, and we know that the devil had prompted Judas to betray Jesus. But Jesus knew that the Father had put everything under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So while the meal was going on, he got up, took out his outer clothing and wrapped a towel round his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. This wasn't at the beginning of the Passover meal. They weren't washed for the Passover meal. It was during the Passover meal. It was in progress. Jesus is not doing an act of ritual cleansing. It's a prophetic act about power. Now, who would normally do such a task of cleansing? Not a servant, a slave, and not any old slave, but the lowest of the slaves, usually a woman slave, would be the one who was doing this. And most of the disciples just let him get on with it. But it was Peter who realises that something's going on that he does not like. He is uncomfortable and he objects. "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus says, you don't realise now what I'm doing, but later you will understand. "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." And Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part of me." Now, the clue to the objection in Peter is this word Lord that he uses of Jesus. A Lord cannot wash the feet of the servant. Jesus is breaking the boundaries and conventions of society. Peter wants it to be about purity, this washing, but Jesus refuses. Peter goes on to say, wash my head, wash the rest of my body. If you're going to wash me, not just my feet. If he does that, then Jesus is doing something like a baptism. And he's doing something which is about ritual cleansing. And the powerful can do that to the powerless. That's acceptable. But no, that is not what is going on. And Jesus underlines this by saying, do you understand what I've done for you? He said, you call me teacher and Lord, and that's right. That's what I am. Now I am your Lord and teacher, and I've washed your feet. You go and wash the feet of one another and of others. I have set you an example. Do what I have done. That is the breaking of the society. You know, no servant is greater than the master, no messenger greater than the one that sent them. I'm still the master. I'm still the one sending you as messengers. And I'm telling you, do not go and seek power. Go and break down power. Don't allow others to have power. Break down power. Now that you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them. So this act is a call to break down the barriers that stratify society. If our Lord and teacher is to serve as a slave, then societal norms are to be revolutionized. So we end where we begin. Is there an equal society anywhere? Well, I'm afraid we have to really search hard. We can give loads of examples of societies that are dominated. Putin's Russia, North Korea, the Gulf states, all kinds of places where society is controlled from top down. But there are indigenous communities in the Americas, among the indigenous peoples of the Africas, the bush people, the people who live in the rainforests, where they live in communities which are much more consensual and much smaller. They have to be smaller. But they also don't accept the rule of the bigger society around them. But they are rare and they are under threat. We have to begin with us. How do we change the society that we live in, the structures that we live in? How do we begin to build communities of service where we are? Because we live in the powerful place. We live in the place that is wealthy among the world. We live in the place which actually has power to make changes in the world around us. How do we change and break that power, structure and order in society? Peter was the one who understood that Jesus was doing something radical. He objected, and Jesus was able to say why his way was the right way. See you next time.